The Quest 2 has been out for almost 3 years now, and since it launched, it got some amazing new games. So we are gonna be counting down the top 30 Quest 2 games of all time. So make sure you destroy that like button on your way in, and let's dive right into it. Starting off strong on number 30 with Breachers. This is a newcomer to this list that just got released, taking the VR community by storm, mainly due to its amazing team aspect, where you battle it out in a 5v5 competition and where each team is set into a different role with their own goals and customization options. And seeing how popular this game is getting right now, it is sure to climb up the ladder of best Quest 2 games very soon. Number 29, Vader Immortal. This is for all those hardcore Star Wars fans, and this epic experience comes into 3 different parts. And although the overall package is leading up to a quite short game compared to most standards, it is still the best Star Wars that you can get on the Quest 2. Number 28, Big Baller Basketball. This sports title gives you the ability to play basketball with your friends, and while it uses realistic physics, there's also a mix of arcade-style mechanics to keep the gameplay fast and smooth, even adding in some cool features like slow-mo so that you can perform those impossible dunks. The great thing is that it also uses easy-to-learn dribble mechanics so that you can really show off those amazing skills inside virtual reality. Number 27, Stride. Did you ever want to go hardcore parkour? Then Stride is your game. Not only are you jumping across buildings or swinging from skyscrapers like Spider-Man himself, you also will have to fight for your life as you hurdle through this futuristic metropolis. So step into the shoes of those master freerunners and swing and shoot your way through it. Best part being, they also include multiplayer so that you can play with your buddies or try out different modes like racing against the clock. But do make sure that you watch your surroundings while playing this game. Number 26, Gravity Leap. This is a big hidden gem for the Quest 2, and most of you might not have heard about it before. And the rules are very simple. There are 2 players, 1 ball, and 0 gravity. And in it, you are basically competing in an advanced version of air hockey, with the winner being that who scores 7 points first. And with the great challenge to make your way to the top and become the Gravity Legend, they even have an upcoming competitive online league where you can compete with others to see who is truly the very best. Number 25, I Expect You to Die 1 and 2. This game should need no introduction, but to keep spoilers to a minimum, you will have to solve puzzles, escape dangerous situations, and manipulate objects while you are going undercover in disguise to figure out exactly what is going on. And your main goal, as the title implies, is try not to die. With one of the big reasons that this became so popular is due to its nice graphics and humor that it throws into the game itself. Number 24, The Room VR. This is one for those who love an escape room, made by Fireproof Games, who got famous from their mobile games within the same series. But taking it to virtual reality makes it so much more realistic, putting you into the shoes of a big investigation where you have to explore cryptic locations and escape your surroundings. And thanks to it completely being designed from the ground up to work in virtual reality, it can give players that escape room feeling inside a VR game. Number 23, Rec Room. Probably one of the most popular Quest 2 titles of all time, where in it, players can create their own worlds and avatars, and experience those of others as well. And while there are some main games of the makers themselves, there are also some great third-party worlds that you can go exploring, and where truly, your imagination is the entire limit. But do keep in mind that there is a lot of young kids playing this game as well, and sometimes it might get a bit noisy. Number 22, A Township Tale. Falling down a couple of places compared to previous lists, this is still a solid VR game, where you are set off to explore forgotten worlds, filled with both adventures as well as ancient secrets, where you will first discover an abandoned town that you can then turn in your own sanctuary, and you will be journeying across a vast medieval fantasy world, where you can choose what you become, from creating a warrior class focused on fighting, to becoming a blacksmith, helping others upgrade their gear. And while it's truly one of the best Quest 2 games, it went down on the list because of all the many other great titles that recently came out. Number 21, Job and Vacation Simulator. Sit back, relax, and enjoy your job or vacation in these hilarious simulator games, where you are doing exactly everything that you are not supposed to during your job hours or while you're on vacation. These games are specifically designed to let your imagination run wild, creating very funny scenarios and hilarious moments that you are sure to remember. And although the graphics aren't something to write home about, it is the intuitive gameplay and interaction with objects around you that make it such a fun experience. Number 20, The Climb 1 and 2, taking you to a new height where you have to scale insane big mountains and follow a track to get up to the top as quick as possible. And with their sequel, now even letting you climb crazy things like skyscrapers, it is sure that you shouldn't be afraid of heights when playing this. But one of its biggest pros is its amazing quality as well as its graphics and beautiful scenery. But it is also prone to one of the most common VR fails. This is because your body wants to fall down when you see it happening in virtual reality as well. The problem, however, is that this can create some nasty scenarios. Even so, this is a solid title for those who love bouldering or climbing in general. Number 19, Zenith, The Lost City. This was one of the first big MMORPGs that came to the Quest 2 headset. And while the initial hype was absolutely on another scale, they did lose a big chunk of their player base while time went on. But luckily, they didn't give up on this project, and they still released some big new updates, adding in loads of content completely for free. And soon, even adding in PvP, so that you can 1v1 your friends and see who is truly the strongest. However, like any big MMORPG, a low player base completely changes the game of what it is supposed to be. So I do truly hope that they can pick up their numbers again, so that hopefully we get even more big MMO titles in the near future. Number 18, 11 Table Tennis. If you want the most accurate and authentic representation of a sports in VR, then this is easily your best bet, because it offers one of the most convincing takes on a sports that just makes sense in VR. And whether you are serving up some hot shots or giving some desperate returns, their physics system works exactly the same way that you would expect in real life, even becoming so realistic that tapping the ball with your controllers soon starts to feel as natural as you do with a pedal. Number 17, Onward. There are so many different multiplayer VR shooters, but Onward is focused on realism that still holds it way above of the rest of the competition. And on the Quest 2 especially, the wire-free gameplay really opens up some new tactics. And although the game did suffer from some big visual downgrade when it came from PC to standalone, it still is the same game at its core, but it is flooded with some hardcore gamers, which might make it a bit intimidating for new beginners. Number 16, Walkabout Mini Golf. Yet another great sports title that works so well inside virtual reality, but giving it also an extra twist. Because although it is an accurate representation of the game, it goes way beyond what is possible in real life. But that is exactly what makes it so much fun. With plenty of courses, extensive multiplayer support, it is arguably better than the real thing itself. And they just keep pumping out new DLC content with loads of new courses as well as gameplay modes that you could have almost never imagined before. Number 15, Beatsaber. We couldn't make a VR game list without at least mentioning or including Beatsaber. This game has been there from the start, and you have most likely seen many videos of people playing it. With the easy concept of slashing blocks on the beat of the music, it quickly became one of the most competitive and addictive VR games in existence. But one of the biggest downsides is its many paid DLC packages. And although the base game is now often included with a VR headset, it is sad to see that so many great songs are locked behind a huge paywall. But even so, it is a great recommendation for both new as well as advanced VR players. Number 14, Green Hell VR. Originally released as a flat screen survival game, it was last year that they brought the experience to VR headsets as well. However, there is a big catch, since there are two different releases of the game. One specifically made for the Quest 2 and another one for PC VR. And while the PC version is a full translation of the original, the Quest 2's version is not close to that at all, being way more streamlined, but also creating some big limitations. And although this isn't necessarily a bad thing, it is important to keep that in mind. Not only will the game look a lot less detailed, its overall length will also be shorter, so you might want to consider getting the PC VR version instead. Number 13, Moss Book 1 and 2. Originally released as a PlayStation exclusive, they now are also available for Quest 2 owners. But in contrast to many other VR games, this game takes place in a third-person's perspective, where you have to guide an adorable little mouse named Quill to diorama-sized levels, solving both puzzles as well as taking on some fearful enemies, with the biggest focus on creating a friendship bond with Quill throughout your entire course of the adventure. And while you play as a larger companion to this tiny protagonist, it really gives you an amazing feeling at the end of it. Number 12, Iron Man VR. Another original PlayStation exclusive finally flew its way onto the Quest 2 this year, with the best thing that it got some drastic improvements along the way. They even completely got rid of the load times, and switching to a standalone system without wires makes the gameplay also so much more immersive. And in it, you will embody Tony Stark and his suit of armor in a thrilling and engaging story-driven campaign, featuring both combat as well as traversals that add up to an addictive superhero experience. Number 11. Pistol Whip. Often compared to the Beatsaber with sharpshooting. In it, you are in a neon-lit corridor, blasting guys to some amazing new tunes, all at the same time while avoiding incoming fire and trying to rack up the best possible score, and definitely giving the players a big challenge. Number 10. Bone Lab. This game has also fallen off the list quite a lot of places, and made by the amazing studios that was also behind Boneworks. Their second title had many people hyped up for its release, and once it came out, the first thing to notice was that the graphics were absolutely amazing. But what many people didn't like so much is that the campaign itself was very short, and where the focus was more on the sandbox style games that were built inside it as well. Even so, I do truly believe that this team is capable of creating VR games that are not like anything else on the market. But if you are looking for a hefty and lengthy campaign, then you should definitely keep that in mind before getting this title. Number 9. Demeo. Imagine Dungeons and Dragons in virtual reality. That is exactly what Demeo is trying to accomplish. And the game itself has truly grown on me over the past year. In it, you pick a class and tackle randomly generated dungeons. Of course, this experience is the best when also competing and playing it with friends. But because the game's punishing difficulty is so high, sessions can last from between minutes to even a couple of hours. And with loads of other content added in over the past year that include new dungeons and features, it is only gonna become better. Number 8. Among Us VR. Although a little bit late after the original hype of the game, Among Us finally got its official VR version for the Quest 2 as well. And while it shouldn't need any explanation, it is good to know that they made it from the ground up to work for your Quest 2 headset, so that all the tasks that you perform actually have some heft and weight to it, while still keeping their core concept. Number 7. VR Chat. This is probably the game that got many of us into virtual reality in the first place, giving us somewhat of a dream like we saw in movies like Ready Player One, where VR Chat itself is a place where people can create their own avatars and own worlds completely based on how far their imagination can take them. And personally, I've met some amazing people and friends that I would otherwise have never met. So VR Chat is an absolute must for anyone who even owns a Quest 2 or other VR headset. Number 6. Superhot. It is after 4 years that it is still easily one of the best examples of what VR has to offer. And in short, time moves only when you move, creating a cinematic shooter where you literally feel like you're inside the Matrix. And while you sit still, you can see the world freeze around you, giving you time to think about your next move to make without getting hit by your surrounding enemies. From last-minute gun grabs to well-placed knife throws, the game constantly delivers in all of its levels. So despite its age, it is still one of the top best out there, making you wonder, when are we finally getting a sequel? Number 5. Blade and Sorcery. If you're not hot on VR combat, then fair warning, because Blade and Sorcery is a stabbing, punching, and kicking game that is focused on its sandbox physics-driven combat system. Try to say that 3 times. What it means is that it gives your character real heft, where there is a big difference between the objects you pick up depending on their weight inside the game. And although the game got plagued with many bugs in the beginning, its regular updates got rid of most of its problems, and the unparalleled mod support turns it into an absolutely fan's dream. Number 4. Population 1. This superb battle royale shooter is also often called the Fortnite of VR, and it takes place on a huge map where teams of 3 battle it out to the last one standing, and you get to choose where you drop, scavenge for supplies, and of course, you have to make sure you stay in the safe zone as you fight to survive. It also has some great mechanics, from holding out your arms to glide when you leap off a side of a building, to actually scaling up big walls with your own 2 arms. It is important to note that it can be an intense experience that certainly won't be for everybody, but if you are looking to get your online shooter in VR, then this is your best place to go. Number 3. Red Matter 2. Pretty much the sci-fi adventure that you can get on your Quest 2, with one of the most impressive visual showcases in all of VR, with the gameplay focused on environmental puzzles, as well with the occasional combat. And although some puzzles might not be as obvious, it is the gameplay itself with its beautiful environments that really makes this game stand out from all of the others. And while most people are still not sure how they pulled off these insane graphics on the Quest 2, it is sure that many big VR fans are waiting for its next installment. That gets us to number 2, Resident Evil 4 VR. Probably one of the most obvious games on this list. And with Resident Evil Village in VR and many others coming to virtual reality as well, it is an exciting time for all of those horror fans out there, because you play it in a first-person view with full motion control support. And sure, some elements don't hold up as well today, for example the cutscenes, but when you are fighting, you truly realize how amazing this game is. But before we get to the number 1 game of all time, let me know in the comments below what your number 1 game is. Number 1, Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners. I would have never guessed that a game based on the popular series would carry such a big weight for the entire VR community. It does not only set the bar for VR zombie games, but basically for the entire medium as a whole, with its amazing realistic physics-based combat, as well as its hefty and meaty campaign mode, where it doesn't just feel like a short VR experience, but instead like a fully fledged game. And although its sequel, known as Chapter 2, might not have been as good as many had hoped for, this game is a must play for any Quest 2 user out there. But we have even more Quest 2 news, so make sure you don't miss that by checking out the video that you see on screen right now. And of course, stay awesome.